Adonis, once an innocent boy, witnessed the horror as the witch he apprentice gets killed. In the ashes of tragedy, vengeance brews in his heart. Adonis embarks on a journey, driven by a determination to rewrite the narrative of his destiny. The show starts off with a narrator discussing the witches are getting slaughtered and hanged in the Redia Empire. Everyone despises them and their population is decreasing rapidly. Every witch is being brought to the altar and getting hanged or beheaded. A history lesson in anime for the younger ones. The witches were meant to guide the humans, not fight them and kill them. Then, we see a boy and a witch in the desert, trying to make it to the border. The boy, named Adonis, is frustrated with all the heat and hiding. He frustratedly asks why she cannot use her magic to cool this place down a bit. Chloe the Ice Witch, who is looking at a map to see where they are headed, thinks her magic is not so cheap that she can use it to make up for their frustrations. To find out where they are, the boy pulls out his smartphone and activates the GPS. When he discovers where they are, Chloe freaks out and warns him that if he leaves this device on, the army will find them. However, Adonis is aware of that, and he actually made this smartphone. Instead of using radio waves, he was able to use multidimensional photons, which made it impossible for anyone to track them with this device. The boy explained his device with obvious thought. However, Chloe takes offense at this bit and strikes his head, telling him not to use it. Returning to the map, Adonis expresses his dismay over why humans can't be eliminated and why they should be the ones to hide. Chloe thinks this is because people dislike witches, but they still need to figure out how to live peacefully and easily with them. They begin their journey toward the border, telling Adonis to speak only when necessary. She thinks they will find a quiet place of their own where they could take in classes and pick up new skills. However, he doesn't mind studying under her. The group of guards appears out of nowhere. They are nearing them because they have somehow located them. As Adonis prepares to face them alone, Chloe steals the show and puts an end to him fighting. Chloe is prepared to take these dummies, calling forth a large ice cane with her magic on and eliminating them without a sweat. To be honest, her ice magic looks pretty cool. Goth, the king, is reportedly hearing rumors that Chloe is not giving up easily. King, however, intends to kill her because he wants her more than anything. Returning to the primary scene, we see Chloe effortlessly taking down the guards, leaving Adonis unable to take any action. He desired to help her and defend her personally. However, she refused to give him anything to do. He begins to lose his mind, claiming that, contrary to what she claims, he is experienced and knows how to cast spells as well. She never lets him fight them, though. Maybe it's because she doesn't want him to harm people of his kind and he is a human. Weeping, he says that he loves her and would stop at nothing to keep her safe. He hopes that one day, rather than the other way around, he will be the one to save her. Chloe goes to hug him and tells him that she too loves him. However, we see something strange happening to the guards. And then out of nowhere, a portal of some kind appears where Chloe and Adonis are standing. They lose self-control and begin to float. After realizing what is happening, Chloe takes Adonis tightly. Is it possible they are being teleported? A few satellites can be seen engaging about teleporting something. On the contrary, Goth is preparing to speak to the people of the Redia Empire. He tells them he is going to speak to them as a human, not a king. And he takes off his crown. He begins by describing how witches have always been the species on which they have depended. Due to their extraordinary abilities, witches assist during natural disasters. It's time to stop them from always having the appearance of being in charge of the human race. He continues, saying that because science has advanced so much, they are no longer necessary, such as the cell phones they are holding in their hands and similar items. Don't forget self-driving cars and my robot vacuum cleaner. Perhaps it's time to reveal to witches who the real leaders of humanity are. In order to maintain the natural flow of life on Earth, he wishes to wipe out witches. A brief pause in the speech allows us to witness the same portal opening up inside Goth's palace. Adonis has teleported Chloe and himself here so he can kill her in front of all of humanity. Goth makes fun of Chloe, telling her that her hiding and fighting days are over. As her protector, Adonis charges at him, ordering Chloe to leave, but he gets caught by the surrounding guards. For the time being, Chloe was calm, but she is now furious because she doesn't want him to harm Adonis. She begins to lose her temper and works her magic. Calling upon her ice cane, she cautions Goth to release Adonis or face dire consequences. She tells how the boy would have nowhere to go if she killed the humans, which is why she always lets them go. But they are too dangerous and ought to die. She charges her attack, but her magic vanishes in an instant. For some reason, she can't seem to produce it again. At that point, Goth describes the advancements in technology. Her magic has just been destroyed by a device that stops magic photons. Because of it, even Adonis is currently unable to spell. She is nothing at the moment and feels worn out. Goth approaches her and rips her clothes off. When her chest is revealed to the public, everyone begins to mock at her and take pictures of her. What is taking place? Who are these people as humans? In an attempt to aid her, Adonis tries to free himself. Goth gives his guards the order to kill him after noticing how much noise he is making. When Chloe notices this, she kneels before Goth and pleads with him to spare the boy. Since he is also a human, she wants him to go from him. She is crying out for mercy, and Goth is staring at her. The scene is causing the crowd to go crazy. They are filming and photographing this scene. Adonis, who has never seen Chloe beg like this before, looks at her in disbelief. Goth pulls a gun and, shockingly, points it at Chloe's head. When Chloe is ready to pass away, she turns to face Adonis and says her goodbyes. She expresses her gratitude to him for all of his assistance. She feels grateful that she got to know him when he was living alone all those years ago. She has no regrets about dating him. When Adonis hears these words, he is shocked. He makes every effort to help her with his magic, but nothing seems to be working at the moment. Right now, the tension is really high. Goth shoots her in mid-sentence just as she is ready to confess her love to him. Adonis turns speechless in this unreal moment as the guards rip her body to pieces with machine guns. As they rip her flesh to ashes, Adonis is powerless to stop them. Then a guard approaches her body and chops off her head with an axe. As the merciless individual that he is, Goth picks up her head, dripping with blood, and displays it to the gathering. He's showing her head to the world, and the crowd is cheering. What God said when creating these beings is explained by the narrator, that they ought to live happily among one another. Witches must use caution because people may fear them due to their insecurity. They have to exist peacefully, else chaos will overtake them. As this unreal thing happens, Adonis is screaming at the top of his lungs. 10 years later, we witness a few inmates contained in the same cell. There are several female inmates in the room, and we see 2 of them fighting over a single piece of bread. When a kind woman offers them to her so they can stop fighting, they start to go crazy. Doroka is her name, and she is one of the inmates with them. Her friend Anna approaches her and tells her how brave she is to give food to people just to make friends. Despite her belief that Doroka must be extremely hungry and shouldn't allow others to feed her, she is fine. After they exchange a few words, Anna breaks down in tears. She describes how, contrary to what the Redia Empire claimed, humanity would be happy once witches were killed. The gear expansion has caused everyone to start fighting, and it's not clear when this conflict will end. When Anna starts to cry chaotically, Doroka brings out puppets to comfort her. She is relieved when, out of nowhere, guards answer the call and request the presence of a prisoner. The number is 218. It belongs to Anna. Since everyone is aware of those who get called out and never return, she is choosing not to respond. Doroka takes her phone number and pretends to be her. We can see that she is in the prison administrator's office. Ladies are being used for the pleasure of others in this sort of concentration camp setting. She is asked to undress in front of the man taking up the main seat so he can judge the way she looks. He dives right into the business. Doroka finds this disgusting. He clarifies that since the Redia Empire rescued them all, they owe them something in return. And that's precisely how these female inmates go about doing it. She becomes alarmed upon discovering dead bodies scattered about this office. Doroka bites the man's hand and flees as he approaches her to take a selfie with her to send to headquarters. She's brought his phone, which has voice-activated locks throughout the building. She's running with guards following her as she tries to get the prison locks unlocked. But the guy in command needs to speak. She tries several voices, and fortunately one of them lands and releases all the prisons, creating a panic throughout the facility. Doroka is trying to escape while all of the prisoners are running outside. When she comes upon a large room filled with huge machines, she is hiding. When she gets caught in it, the facility's guards become extremely alarmed because everything is now essentially open. A machine in the room opens, and we see a guy tied and chained inside. The guy was unconscious, but now he is awake and angry by the way he looked at the guards. Adonis is going to turn their lives around. I suppose quite literally, using nothing but his violence and pure power. He escapes the locked machine. As they emerge from that area, we witness the guards becoming alarmed at the news that prisoner 1001 is now free, and that they ought to inform their superiors. However, it is all pointless because they will all pass away. Guards are pissing themselves off and Adonis reflects a very dark aura. Emerging from the cell, he proceeds to take out the guards one by one with relative ease. With some creativity killing, he grabs a guard's gun and moves toward the ground to approach Doroka. He ignores her pleas for him not to kill her and aims the gun directly at her head. Even though it appears like her time is up, he shoots her chains, keeping her hands in the handcuffs and seemingly setting her free. As Adonis leaves, she collapses in terror. However, the National Security Bureau's highest-ranking official insists that an executive officer be assigned to handle the matter. His sister, the guy's secretary, gets irritated with him because he appears to be quite laid back and easygoing. Ōkoku is the executive officer, and it will be up to him to handle matters at the camp. The secretary is furious, wondering why he seems to be handling this situation so easily, and why he is handling it of all people. After telling her that he is very capable, her brother Ōkoku removes his robe to reveal that he is a cyborg with half of his body made of robots. Alright, so now we are getting some interesting characters with a well-developed story. The camp's commanding officer is furious that prisoner 1001 has escaped and is now outside of their control. He's going to wreak chaos across the empire, so they need to find him. It doesn't matter that he wants to inform the higher-ups about it because it has already reached them. The mystery to him is how he managed to escape. He learns from the guard that the girl used his cell phone to get it free. She opened each cell, mimicking his voice. However, that is not possible because prisoner 1001 cannot be released even at his level of authority. This guy tells how, as Chloe the witch's apprentice, he should never have been allowed to leave prison and was the most feared prisoner. Adonis is seen trying to cast spells on a building while landed on its roof with his summoning pencil. He fires a bullet directly at the structure while using a spell. The spell turns the bullet into a massive one that instantly destroys a building. Adonis is prepared to wipe out the last remaining citizens. Ōkoku, on the other hand, searches the camp but is unable to locate Adonis. The camp commander is searching for him after he killed every last prisoner there. When Doroka, who is now free, stops to look at a massive bullet sticking to a building, she runs away from the camp. She places the blame on herself, claiming that this is her fault. She was unable to control him, and as a result, the entire empire will descend into chaos. Adonis is moving through the crowd, looking at everyone in his path, believing that Chloe won't be pleased with what he is about to do. She would say something along the lines of getting even won't bring her back. Now that he's free, he ought to live his life to the utmost and experience no regrets. After saying this, Adonis swings his pen once more and brings up a spell that causes a massive rock person to emerge from the earth. It begins by killing everyone it comes across and destroying every building that stands in his way. Though he believes it is a prank call, the police station receives a call about a giant that is destroying everything in the business district. At that moment, a car crashes into the office. The driver is frightened for an unknown reason when the office person gets up. He steps outside to visit the giant that has been mentioned. He doesn't think what he sees. That's what you get for killing an innocent witch and making fun of her. As it approaches the castle, we can see the Adonis in the giant's hand. He wants to kill the Emperor Goth no matter what. The Emperor is ill at the castle and is unable to act at this time. Thus, the National Security Bureau director is assuming command of the situation. He wants all of the soldiers to be prepared to take on the giant. He is receiving every last bit of assistance, deploying all of the foot soldiers and bringing in an air army to defend from above. As he steps outside, he notices the giant approaching them. The idea that this thing can move is difficult for him to accept. But he shouldn't treat it lightly. The camp prisoner disappeared Yuki's sister tells him, and it's possible that he is the one using magic to accomplish this. Now that the situation is clear, there is only one thing to do. He requests that the photon-suppressing device be removed from the guards. However, since it has been buried for 10 years, it is not that simple. It's going to require some time to properly start. Thus, they are at a loss for how to neutralize Adonis. They prepare their forces and tanks for assault. They shoot missiles at the giant, but for some reason, they are flying straight. They fire multiple times, missing every time. Adonis has mastered the written style of magic, which is the only one available to non-witch people, according to the narrator. Without the greatest teachers, which Chloe was, he could not have mastered it. He made the most of every last second of his 10 years of tying up, so it wasn't in vain. He made the most of every minute he had there to plan out how to topple a country, and now Adonis has his chance. After 10 years of planning, he is now prepared to exact the retribution he has been craving. Using the magic, Adonis builds 2 machine guns and begins blasting any citizen he comes across. Even though everyone is dying, he can't stop because it feels so good. Even though people are collapsing like flies, Adonis isn't backing down. He eventually comes to a stop and looks at the scene of his action. He enjoys every view he sees, but all of a sudden, the rush of joy he was experiencing vanishes. He wants to feel good about himself, but seeking revenge only makes matters worse. However, as Ōkoku watches the giant, he notices a boy in its hand. He tells NSB that the appearance corresponds with what he was told. Now that the adversary is identified, everyone learns that the boy is in the giant's palms. He is hit by missiles fired by jets from the sky. which throws him off balance and causes him to fall out of the giant's hand. The citizens are freaking out as the military starts blasting everywhere. Although there is nowhere to go, they are leaving the area. As a building begins to collapse on top of the dead body of his mother, we witness a small child sobbing. It's not until Doroka dashes off and rescues the boy that the child disappears. Doroka keeps apologizing for this happening and assures him that he is safe. The people wonder if they captured the giant when the blasting stops. Doroka grabs the boy and instructs a citizen to look after him since she intends to stop Adonis. Gove and the queen are in his last moments together on a bed in a different part of the city. The queen tells him about the mayhem occurring in the city as he is about to die. However, because of a particular emperor, the queen is certain that the Redia Empire is powerful enough to defend itself. I think the queen will kill him herself, no matter what. Gove believes that this is a divine retribution because he is coughing up blood, though he is still in the same place as he was 10 years ago. He believes it is because he killed all the witches. He believes that humanity would never have progressed to this point as long as witches were around. They were to be destroyed, and they took the proper action. As his condition worsens, the queen loses it and orders the guards to call the doctor right away. Back at the scene, Adonis is on the ground and feels unfit, which could be the reason he is tripping so easily. Rising to his feet, he takes every guard in his path. Nobody appears to be able to even come close to striking him. When a civilian approaches Adonis, the military cannot see any of their soldiers alive on the battlefield. Doroka approaches him and begs for an end to the chaos. He disregards her advice and murders the last soldier who was lying in front of him. He becomes enraged upon hearing her use the word innocent, and he moves closer to her. Regardless of whether they are Ridian or not, he believes that he should murder every person. Doroka informs him that Chloe wouldn't have approved of this while he is saying this. He gets angry at the sound of her name. Grabbing Doroka by the neck, he swears he will kill her if she calls Chloe's name one more time. Doroka is forced to reveal her true self at this point. She demonstrates to him that she is a witch and that she is capable of bringing Chloe back. Adonis finds this unbelievable and believes she's playing him. He draws a large sword with his pen. Adonis is determined to kill her and keeps the sword at her throat. Doroka said he could do this if it pleased him, but she didn't think he would listen. Like Chloe did in her last moments 10 years ago, she closes her eyes, prepared to pass away. Adonis feels weak and drops to his knees as this hits his heart. If she is telling the truth about getting Chloe back, he wants to know. She goes on to say that he will assist her in sharing his memories of her so that they can bring her back to life. When Adonis asks her and the other surviving witches about why they didn't come to Chloe's aid, he becomes furious. All of them, though, were attempting to flee. When we watch Chloe get shot, she reaches out and tells him he's not alone. Things are about to get crazy because Zeke outshot her. We see what happened to the hometown of Doroka. Amidst a peaceful gathering of friends and family, a sudden and unwarranted attack by humans shattered the tranquility. Their homes were mercilessly blasted, and innocent lives were ruthlessly extinguished. Doroka, though slightly injured, managed to escape the carnage. Mia, her friend, tightly embraced her from behind, offering comfort and reassurance amidst the chaos. Mia explained that the unprovoked assault by the humans left them with no choice but to flee their beloved town. Doroka wants to use magic right now to defend themselves, but they cannot. Because of that giant machine, they are unable to use their magical powers for now. Doroka cannot believe this is happening because the humans and the witches get along greatly. Devastated by the sudden loss of their loved ones, Doroka and Mia found themselves the sole survivors of the merciless attack. With heavy hearts and a shared sense of urgency, Mia urged Doroka to flee the ruins and seek refuge with Madame Ophelia. She explained that Doroka must inform Madame Ophelia of the tragic events that had transpired, emphasizing the importance of revealing the truth. Guided by the stars of revelation, Doroka embarked on a journey towards Ophelia's mansion, carrying the weight of her grief and the responsibility to reveal the truth. Doroka remembers that Mia took her there during the fertility tests. Startled by the puppet's sudden fall, Mia swiftly scooped it up and conveyed a message to Doroka through the puppet's movements. Doroka, grasping the urgency, sprinted away with all her might, leaving Mia behind to face the relentless humans. In the present, Doroka bears the grim scars of that fateful day. Her arm irrevocably severed by a merciless bullet. Adonis holds her in his arms, trying to get the information from her. The thing she told him about is forcing him to stay by her. He wants to know how to bring back Chloe from the dead, but as Doroka was about to tell him, troops started firing. Adonis gets away from there to save himself while Doroka gets killed by those bullets. The frustration is getting the best of Adonis, and he cannot believe that she just died like that. He cannot do anything without just knowing that he can bring Chloe back from the dead. He has to know how to do that. Bro can actually get bald due to tension. Adonis is completely surrounded by the soldiers with guns in their hands. Views of Doroka's demise reaches Yamato, but the survival of Adonis remains a thorn in his side. Adonis vows to make these humans pay for their transgressions and draws his pen, ready to unleash his arcane power. As he commences his spell, soldiers, sensing the impending threat, unleash a barrage of gunfire upon him. But nothing is happening as the wall of these spells is protecting Adonis from taking any damage. In fact, the spell is catching the bullets and making them fire at the soldiers. Adonis has the clear advantage here, and one by one, all of the soldiers there get killed. Perched atop the towering edifice, Ōkoku readied his colossal firearm, its menacing barrel glinting ominously in the waning light. With a surge of grim determination, he unleashed a torrent of destruction, sending a hulking projectile hurtling towards Adonis. Undeterred, Adonis, wielding the formidable power of the gain spell, effortlessly intercepted the formidable bullet, his mastery over magic evident. With a deft twist of his wrist, he amplified the bullet's size, transforming it into an unstoppable force of nature. The amplified projectile, imbued with Adonis's arcane might, rocketed back towards Ōkoku, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Caught in the path of this unstoppable force, Ōkoku was obliterated, his body shattered into fragments. With this decisive victory, Adonis emerged triumphant, his power and resolve unyielding. As the final soldier lay gasping his last breath, Adonis's voice boomed with a chilling oath, vowing to eradicate every human from the face of the planet. His words sent shivers down Yamamoto's spine, fueling his desperate desire for Yuki to activate the machine without delay. Meanwhile, Yuki stood resolutely before the suppression device, her mind focused on the task at hand. She sees this device for the first time in real life and cannot believe that she finally has the opportunity to make his brother proud. She orders her soldiers to start the machine, but the director Theta doesn't allow her. She tells Yuki that the National Bureau of Agency cannot let her run this machine. Yuki tries to force her, but that doesn't work. Yamato gets a call from Theta which surprises him for a bit. The unexpected sound of her voice startled Yamato, his mind consumed by the urgency of the battle. She expressed her desire to speak with him, but he couldn't fathom a leisurely conversation amidst the chaos of their fight against time. That's a rather peculiar way of phrasing it, he remarked, his tone laced with exasperation. Adonis is wreaking havoc, and this woman wants to have a chit-chat. In response, Theta explained the gravity of the situation, emphasizing that activating the device at that moment could have disastrous consequences. Yamato struggled to grasp her explanation. Theta wants him to remember a disease called cellular dysfunction disease. Yamato clearly remembers this because this spread from the soldier who fought in the witch hunt 10 years ago. But he has no clue why this is important right now. Theta cautions Yamato that the suppression device is shrouded in mystery, its exact workings still eluding their understanding. However, they have reason to believe that the pandemic that ravaged the world a decade ago was triggered by this very device. Its indiscriminate power to eradicate any cell in its path proved lethal to the soldiers who operated it during the war, causing them to convulse and perish. Theta fears that activating the device now, without proper safeguards in place, could unleash a similar catastrophe, potentially endangering the entire world. The witches that could cleanse these harmful rays are gone now, and they have no way to control those harmful rays. The thing that shocks Yamato the most is that the king got the same disease but has not died by now because of being quite away from these rays. That does make a lot of sense now. Yamato doesn't have anything else to fight Adonis with, and yet he cannot let him destroy this empire just like that. Yamato's gaze falls upon Adonis, who effortlessly dispatches his soldiers with childlike ease. Theta, comprehending the gravity of the situation, instructs Yuki to evacuate. However, Yuki, driven by a sense of national duty, brushes off Theta's warning and rushes towards the device, determined to activate it. Theta desperately attempts to dissuade her, emphasizing the catastrophic consequences of such an action. Yuki, blinded by patriotism, ignores Theta's pleas and activates the device, disregarding the impending danger. The device starts and we see Adonis losing his magical powers just like that. He doesn't understand what just happened. Yamato is also very confused but quickly connects the dots. Amidst the chaos and destruction, Yamato's concern turns to Yuki, who is clearly struggling from the harmful rays. Theta, also wounded but determined, manages to deactivate the device, momentarily halting the catastrophic consequences. With a stern gaze, she directs Yamato's attention back to the battle, reminding him of their unwavering spirit as the Redia Empire. "We do not fall like this, not to a mere boy," she declares, fueling Yamamoto's resolve. Yamamoto issues a commanding order to his troops, rallying them to charge against Adonis. Adonis, momentarily distracted, quickly retrieves his quill, narrowly avoiding the soldiers' barrage of gunfire. Suddenly, one of the female soldiers runs to Adonis and a building crashes right in the middle of her and the rest of the soldiers. The female soldier is right in front of Adonis, who is on the floor trying to pick up his magic pencil. She takes the therma knife and is about to kill him. Adonis cannot believe he is about to die. This makes him happy and he is ready to finally meet Chloe on the other side of the world. The female soldier strikes and chops off Adonis's head with a single blow. That cannot be happening. He cannot just die like that. When is the twist going to come? She picks up the head and heads back to the rest of the soldiers, showing them that she did it. Everyone jumps in joy seeing that she actually killed the witch's apprentice. The female soldier falls to the ground and others come to pick her up. Yamamoto sees what just happened and doesn't believe his eyes. Taking a breather, Yamamoto orders the soldiers to retreat the body and make sure that there is no way he is coming back to life. The Empire calls the ambulances and helps the victims and aid their injuries. Yamamoto's gaze fell upon the young soldier who had struck down Adonis, his heart filled with admiration for her bravery and skill. He vowed to remember her name, the one who had vanquished the Empire's most formidable foe. One of Yamamoto's soldiers, eager to learn more about the valiant warrior, sought permission to approach her. However, Yamamoto, his priorities clear, instructed him to check on Yuki and Theta, who lay gravely injured from the device's harmful rays. The king is making a speech talking to the people of the Redia Empire, telling them that the witch's apprentice has been finally killed. He regrets not killing him 10 years ago, but for now, the chaos is stopped. They still don't know how he was able to use magic as a human, but that doesn't matter right now. The thing that matters right now is that magic is gone forever from this world and the god is dead. From now on, this nation is the god and everyone should feel safe under its protection. Some of the schools were also hit with the chaos of Adonis and a few students died. We see a schoolgirl named Eri seeing the speech of the king on the internet. She is in the class where the teacher is explaining what happened and that everyone should pay respects to those who lost their loved ones. Amidst the classroom chatter, a student's question sparked curiosity: why would a human aid a witch? However, the school bell's insistent chime cut off the discussion, bringing the class to attention. As the room settled into a quiet hum, Eri remained seated at her desk, her thoughts consumed by the recent events. Her tranquility was shattered by the arrival of a fellow student, who hurled insults at her reaction from a previous encounter. Eri, unable to contain her frustration, unleashed a torrent of curses before storming out of the classroom, her friends following in her wake. Outside the school, she puts flowers for the dead people and regrets her decision of not saving her class fellow. He was stuck under rubble and she could have saved her, but a huge rock was falling on top, so she had to run away. She regrets seeing him die, but at the same time, she is going through the photos of Adonis. She finds him very attractive and praises his looks when a guy sees her doing this right from her shoulder. He is Oz and he is from the government. She freaks out seeing that he is the government and maybe she will get punished for having photos of Adonis. He makes her feel that it is alright and she just has to keep them to herself. Eri runs away from him when he calls the troops to seize her on her way because of finding the terrorist, Adonis inspiring. Oz's urgent call to Charmy broke the silence of the laboratory, a place she despised with all her heart. Amidst the piles of test tubes and vials, she meticulously analyzed the remains of the witch's apprentice. As she delved deeper into her examination, a startling revelation emerged. The body was a mere illusion, a deceptive facade masking the apprentice's survival. Adonis lay sprawled on the hospital bed, his body a battleground against the unseen forces of the unknown witches. They restrained his struggling form, their eyes glued to the monitors tracking his fading vitals. A pall of fear hung heavy in the air, the witches dreading the inevitable moment when his life would slip away. Adonis's cries pierced the silence, his pupils rolling back in his head, revealing the void beneath his once vibrant eyes. Lady Opalia tells the witches not to give up. She walks up to Adonis and restores his senses by stimulating his brain. Her magic works, but Adonis wakes up back on the battlefield. He sees his body lifeless at the female soldier's feet and gets confused. She introduces herself as Anna and explains she used her magic to make a duplicate of him. She reveals herself as a witch who infiltrated the country with Doroka. She tells Adonis it was all a plan to resurrect Chloe. She assures him she'll get him to safety. Suspecting her intentions, Adonis tries to interrogate Anna. She rebukes him and requests Madame Ophelia to dismiss him. Adonis is enveloped in a linen sphere that ascends into the sky, leaving Anna to watch as he vanishes. Doroka's departure to another plane saddens her. Adonis abruptly awakens among the unfamiliar witches. He falls off the hospital bed shivering. Madame Ophelia hugs him, thanking him for fighting for them. Adonis looks around and recognizes the nation of witches. Adonis is put in a wheelchair and shown around. The atmosphere there is happy and cheerful. Two witches are standing by a group of pillars. One of them calls out to him, happy he's now in good health. Adonis stops to talk to them. She tells him Chloe would be sad if anything happened to him. He asks them if they've met Chloe before. The witches reveal that Anna was a compassionate witch who nurtured them in their youth. They express their deep affection for her. Adonis responds with a mournful sigh. Subsequently, Adonis is deposited in front of Ophelia. He attempts to approach her, but she forbids him, explaining that humans are not permitted to tread upon their territory. She tells him he's taken a very complex path to get to their nation and any slight mistake could have grave consequences. She tells him his body was placed under a lot of stress. Adonis checks himself to make sure he's okay. Ophelia tells him that she simply invited him over to their nation. Upon his question, addressing him as Chloe's apprentice, she tells him everyone knew Chloe because she was a kind and smart witch. However, Chloe was cast out of the witches' nation. Adonis accuses her of being the instigator of Chloe's exile. Ophelia asks him if Chloe told him about it, but he replies he'd spent enough time around her to know that. Ophelia tells him that magic of witches is sacred to them and the magic bestowed upon them represents their devotion to leave humankind. Ophelia informs Adonis that the knowledge of witches is not meant for human comprehension. She expresses bewilderment at Chloe's decision to take on a human apprentice. Despite the witches' pleas for Chloe to abandon Adonis and return to their nation, she remains steadfast. Ophelia assures Adonis that despite the circumstances, he is still loved by all. Annoyed, Adonis inquires if Ophelia is finished with her recollections. She extends her hand, summoning Adonis' quill, and offers to return it to him. He gets up from his wheelchair and rushes towards Ophelia. He pushes away a witch who is in his way. He tells Ophelia to give back his magic feather. Ophelia calmly admires the quill, calling it a true masterpiece. She floats it over to Adonis, saying it's clear that Chloe made it for him. Clutching the quill to his chest, Adonis is overcome with a mix of love and sorrow, knowing that no one else could have crafted such a precious item. With a glimmer of hope, he asks Ophelia if she could bring Chloe back from the other realm. Ophelia solemnly confirms that witches never deceive, and Adonis lifts his head, a sigh of contentment escaping his lips. As he opens his eyes, he is met with a sight that leaves him stunned. The earth looms in the distance, a celestial marvel that sets his heart racing. Ophelia reveals that the witch nation resides in a place beyond human reach, a sanctuary they established on the moon years ago, providing a peaceful haven for their kind. She calls it Lunamilia, the new witch nation, far out of the reach of humans. Madame Ophelia explains to Adonis that the advance of technology revealed humankind's true nature. She tells him perhaps the earth was made spherical so humans cannot see too far ahead because God feared for their future. Adonis tells her he doesn't buy it. Ophelia turns to show Adonis the gravestones of countless witches who have perished. She explains that humans are perpetually bound by emotions and societal constraints, which blind them to the true reality. She recounts the king's belief that witches pose a threat to human morality. Ophelia then guides Adonis to a tree, explaining that it is called a mito and serves as the source of new witches. Adonis gazes up at the tree, marveling at the nests nestled within its branches, where witches are born. Ophelia clarifies that unlike humans, witches do not form mating pairs. Instead, they receive life from the mito tree, emerging as fruits. She thinks her explanation would amaze Adonis, but he's indifferent. She tells Adonis that the tree is the last surviving tree brought from Earth. She tells him that humans burnt down the other trees. Adonis looks through a certain nest and he's surprised. Ophelia tells him that it's the only tree that can give birth to and regenerate witches. He walks closer to the tree and is in disbelief as he sees a regenerating Chloe. He reaches out his hand towards the nest and asks Ophelia if that is Chloe. She tells him it is not, it's just a witch waiting to be born. She tells him, for her to become Chloe, she would need his strength. Adonis doesn't understand what she means. She tells Adonis that magic is the act of giving one's thoughts physical form in the material world. Ophelia explains that Adonis' mastery of summoning magic, which enables him to breathe life into his words, can be harnessed to create any form he desires. She assures him that his magical abilities are potent enough to achieve anything he sets his mind to. With a spark of hope, Ophelia suggests that Adonis could transfer all his memories into the fruit witch, imbuing her with Chloe's essence. She declares him the key to Chloe's resurrection. Adonis, imbued with newfound determination, watches as Ophelia strides away from the tree. She tells Adonis to let her know when he's ready to begin the ceremony. She walks away, leaving Adonis standing alone before the tree. Adonis lies down on the ground and contemplates his choice. He can't believe his magic will resurrect Chloe. At that moment, Anna emerges from the shadows, her presence startling Adonis. She confronts him, asking if he has nothing to say to her. Adonis, his voice laced with disdain, inquires whether she expects anything from him. Anna, taken aback by his cold demeanor, retorts that he cannot possibly be serious. With tears streaming down her face, she reveals that Doroka sacrificed her life for him. Adonis, unmoved, declares that it is not his concern, as it was her own decision to orchestrate his escape. Anna is enraged by his callous response, but Adonis remains unfazed and walks away. Undeterred, Anna calls out to him, insisting that they are not finished talking. She tells him humans are so selfish. She tells him he must feel lucky to be able to revive Chloe as much as he wants with the help of the tree. She wonders why they risk their lives for someone like him. This makes Adonis stop. He turns back and angrily tells her they saved him so he can bring Chloe back so that they could use her. She asks him what he means, but he tells her not to play dumb. Adonis' mind drifts back to Doroka's final words as she held him in her fading embrace. She had revealed the Witch Nation's sinister plan to exploit Chloe. Adonis shares with Anna that the witches are fully capable of thriving in an environment that is hostile to humans. He explains that the construction of the dome was not a necessity for their survival but a deliberate act to confine humanity within its boundaries. He unveils the witches' malicious scheme to abduct humans, imbue them with written-style summoning magic, and transform them into soldiers for their own nefarious purposes. He tells her since witches are near extinction, they need a new source of soldiers. He says it's only because Chloe can make quills, that's why the witches want to resurrect her. Anna is even more surprised. She grabs his shoulders and asks what he's going to do. She asks to help them so Doroka's sacrifice won't go unreturned. Adonis tells her he'll resurrect Chloe, but anything after that is up to Chloe. If Chloe doesn't approve of them, they'll become his enemies. Later in the day, Ophelia and her witches begin the ceremony. Adonis approaches the tree and casts his summoning spell from his memory. Adonis channels his magic into the unborn fruit witch, imbuing it with his memories and the essence of Chloe. His mind wanders back to the days when Chloe instructed him about Falulu, the witch's constellation. Initially, he found her lessons tedious, having heard them repeatedly. Adonis recalls Chloe's astonishment when he demonstrated his remarkable memory, recalling every detail she had imparted. Amused by his precociousness, Chloe playfully suggested that he might be a magical prodigy and she, a deity fortunate enough to guide him. He points at a constellation called Adonis' constellation and accuses Chloe of making it up. Chloe can't seem to remember it and they both begin to argue. Adonis snaps out of his memory. He cherishes the time he'd spent with Chloe, feeling like it was all a dream compared to his current reality. He remembers how Chloe's clothes would be scattered around the house. Chloe was washing herself up and told Adonis to leave the clothes as they were. Adonis says that he'd put them away and peeks through the curtain to see many bruises on Chloe's body. Chloe playfully tells Adonis not to peek at her while she bathes. Adonis expresses his concern for her safety due to her prolonged absence, offering to stand guard outside. He gently urges her to finish bathing quickly before their pursuers close in. Chloe, touched by his unwavering loyalty, thanks him with tears welling up in her eyes. She confesses her inability to live alone, a sentiment that resonates with the present Adonis. The unborn fruit witch continues to absorb Adonis' magic, intensifying its glow. Adonis declares his love for her, and Chloe responds with heartfelt gratitude. The fruit's radiance illuminates the surrounding fields, drawing the attention of all the witches. As the fruit finally opens, revealing its transformed form, a collective gasp echoes through the air. However, instead of Chloe emerging, it is Doroka who steps forth from the radiant cocoon. Adonis recognized the witch's deception, understanding that their true goal was the resurrection of Chloe for their own purposes. While he yearned for Chloe's return, he also feared subjecting her to a life of constant pursuit and exploitation. That is when Adonis made the decision that he would never, ever bring his beloved Chloe back to life because he wanted her to never experience the pain she did. It became obvious to him that an angel such as she is better off without a place in this terrible world. When Dua was the one to emerge from the tree, everyone present was astonished, and Ophelia was shocked to learn that Adonis had rewritten the ritual. Adonis chose Dua to revive her, driven by a sense of obligation to repay his debt. upon her resurrection. Dua, understandably bewildered by her sudden reappearance in Lunamia after being shot, is more concerned about her lack of attire. She pleads with Adonis to erase the image of her unkempt and unattractive state from his memory, and apologizes for subjecting him to such a sight. Adonis, with a sense of relief, assures her that their debt is now settled and offers her something to wear. Naturally, Ophelia is furious with him for giving up to bring Chloe back, as they have been supposedly trying their hardest to support him. In order to ensure his safety and enable him to resurrect Chloe from the dead, they risk their lives to save him and even manage to heal his wounds. Since he destroyed all of their hard work, the group of witches really begins to turn against him. They come to the conclusion that he must not have truly loved Chloe because he is only a lowly human after all. They all believe he has chosen Dua over Khlo, and Dua is accused of brainwashing the boy and seducing him, as Adonis silences them all and explains that his decision to not reincarnate Chloe was all his own, and the witches are really starting to irritate him. The optimistic old woman, Ophelia, laughs fully because she is not impressed with him at all. She reminds Adonis that he is just a human as she gets ready to attack, but she is startled when some odd debris appears. Adonis discloses that the humans had him imprisoned for a very long time before shockingly removing a tracking device that had been inserted into his body, declaring that he is the one who will destroy humanity. He does not want these cunning witches to stand in his way. When he destroys the chip, the Mido tree is consumed by flames. Yamato is surprised to discover the existence of a witch tree. He expresses his hatred for witches by referring to them as the remnants of a wicked race. Hiding his large ear loops, he likens them to rats trapped in a cage, a comparison shared by Adonis, the witch's apprentice. Adonis appears deeply offended, having invited everyone there. He then darkly refers to the location as a graveyard, foreshadowing the impending massacre. A brave witch warns her beloved leader Ophelia not to worry, saying that she will save the Mido tree. She summons a water spell to put out the fire, but at great cost. Knowing that they are in grave danger, Ophelia summons Santa Maria, a witch, to dress everyone in Power Ranger style. Ophelia tells everyone to get ready for battle while maintaining her confidence. Adonis' attempt to unleash his powerful summoning magic is swiftly interrupted by Yamato's swift and decisive action. Yamato, drawing upon his mastery of magic, redirects Adonis' own attack back at him, unleashing a barrage of bullets that pepper Adonis' form. Despite the resilience of Yamato's suit, the relentless barrage of gunfire triggers a series of warning alarms within, signaling the escalating damage. Adonis, his voice laced with venom, calls out to Yamato, reiterating his unwavering hatred for humans and his intention to end Yamato's life. At that moment, Dua successfully captures his interest, leaving him to wonder what she desires. The other witches start putting on the soldiers, setting on an amazing magic show. A second witch covers the group of guys in crystals after the Venom Fang witch sends them to God with an insane snake attack. With a spell she refers to as the Human Hotel, the swarm witch uses centipedes to puncture some other guys. It's obvious that the witches are winning, and Ophelia hasn't even demonstrated her full potential. Despite the soldiers' attempts to prepare for Ophelia's attack, their efforts prove futile in the face of her superior power. She effortlessly deflects their bullets and sends them flying with her formidable magic. With a dismissive nanny, she casts the spell Death Game, mercilessly crushing several soldiers into a grotesque human meatball. Emboldened by her effortless victory, Ophelia confidently asserts the weakness of humans, comparing them to helpless newborns. She expresses unwavering belief in their triumph, seemingly oblivious to the arrival of a second group of humans who swiftly eliminate the female Harry Potter. Ophelia's confidence is unwavering, though, as it only seems like the humans are planning to outnumber them. Humans in other places observe what is going on and ponder how there could be so many witches left. As we can see, Theta is still alive, but her radiation exposure from the magic stopping machine is limited to a few months. When the director of the bureau demands an explanation, she begins by demonstrating a transport device that was invented by humans in the past. It's clear from the pictures she shows them that the witch has taken possession of the gadget, and is using human science to escape detection. Professor X expresses his indignation upon discovering that the witches have successfully concealed their entire moon base using a magical camouflage. He vehemently criticizes the National Science Agency's failure to prevent such incidents despite its substantial annual budget. He emphasizes that Director Shiro's negligence will have far-reaching consequences beyond her own demise, as the public's belief in the end of witch hunts, established a decade ago, is now shattered. Despite the escalating tension, Director Shiro remains the most composed individual in the room, calmly instructing Professor X to cease his outbursts. He makes the point that they only need to tie up any loose ends on the moon because the witch hunt is actually over. Then, it becomes clear that Yamato is experiencing a flashback to the time he looked after his seriously ill sister Yuki. Throughout history, Yuki has stood by his side and eventually rose to become the youngest vice director ever. Despite her remarkable abilities, Yuki's exceptional powers are not enough to shield her from the devastating effects of radiation, which sears her internal organs. As she succumbs to the fatal injury, everyone, including Yamato, who is overcome with grief upon realizing Yuki's tender age of 14, directs their anger and frustration towards Theta, unfairly blaming her for the unfolding tragedy. Yamato now directs his rage towards Adonis, threatening to hold him accountable while increasing the suit's arm output to 500%. Adonis realizes how tough Yamato is when he declares that he is prepared to fight some more. Yamato's superhuman strength and rapid reflexes make him a formidable opponent. Adonis' decision to align himself with the witches baffles Yamato. Dua approaches Adonis, but he sternly reminds her to maintain vigilance, as Yamato is poised to unleash a devastating attack. Driven by scientific advancement, humanity has succumbed to its darkest impulses. As humans turned on the witches with relentless violence, these persecuted beings sought refuge on the moon, finding solace and safety in its desolate expanse. According to her, maybe God created this world for humans because he himself was worried regarding the future of humans seeing their directions. Then, along with the other witches, Clementine shows the Tree of Life to Adonis and tells how this tree gives witches a life again. Adonis, unmoved by Clementine's words, declares his intention to eradicate humanity, casting aside any notion of resurrecting Chloe. His resolve sends shockwaves through the witch community as they witness his unwavering determination. With a powerful gesture, Adonis unleashes a devastating magical blast, shaking the very foundations of the moon, leaving behind a scene of utter destruction. It becomes clear that Adonis is a force to be reckoned with, willing to go to any lengths to achieve his goals. But there stands Yamato to fight. He lands a magic shot so powerful that it ends up cutting all the witches from the abdomen to kill them. Adonis jumps on Yamato, coming with a punch, which Yamato stops using his hand by using scientific tricks. Adonis mocks science as a lowly thing, and as a reply, Yamato says that magic is the one to be mocked, not science. Doroka's voice trembled as he conveyed the devastating news. The Tree of Life, the source of all witch resurrections, had been reduced to ashes. The implications were dire. No witch could be brought back from the clutches of death. Meanwhile, the fierce battle between Yamato and Adonis raged on, their determination unwavering. With a swift and decisive move, Yamato thrust his sword deep into Adonis's chest. But the scene defied expectations. Adonis refused to succumb to the mortal wound. With a surge of dark magic, Adonis retaliated, unleashing a torrent of power that severed Yamato's left arm. A piercing scream echoed through the air as Yamato clutched his severed limb, his face contorted in agony. He proceeds to say that as much as Yamato seeks revenge, Adonis has the same intentions, to seek revenge. Angrily, Yamato is about to chop off Adonis's head, but a voice stops him from doing so. The voice came from Doroka. Suddenly, Yamato doesn't have control over his body and can't move at all, even though he tries his best to. It was Doroka who cast the love magic spell on Yamato and his soldiers. She approaches Yamato and asks him to tell Doroka his name. He tells her he is General Yamato. Completely baffled, Yamato wonders why he is answering her, but he realizes he can't control his mouth, and just his thoughts are still in his control. That mouth does nothing. Unlucky wife of Yamato. Yamato tries to move himself and attack Doroka by punching her, but his movements are halted by the love spell. Amidst the swirling chaos of the battle, Adonis, witnessing Doroka's hesitation, urges her to deliver the final blow and end Yamato's life. However, Doroka, driven by a newfound desire for harmony, extends a hand towards Yamato, proposing a truce between the warring factions. She promises to reverse the spell cast upon Adonis, but only if Yamato and his companions abandon their pursuit of the witches and Adonis. Adonis, enraged by Doroka's defiance, warns her that sparing Yamato will only lead to their destruction, as Yamato will not hesitate to eliminate her and her fellow witches. Yamato, regaining a semblance of control, abruptly attacks Doroka, unleashing a flurry of punches upon her. He punches her on and on, probably seeing it turn on the e-girls with daddy issues. While he attacks her, Yamato keeps saying that witches bring nothing but terror and wrath upon everyone and want to kill everyone. Then, Doroka says that even if humans did not need the witches after the development of science, there was no need to slaughter them on a massive scale. The witches and humans used to be friends before they started mass killing of the witches. Doroka orders him to stop himself and his army from attacking again. Yamato's body lay still, paralyzed by the intensifying love spell. Despite his efforts to maintain his composure and focus, Adonis's swift and merciless attack proved too much for him to bear. With a single impalement of his sword, Adonis cleaved Yamato's head in two, silencing the once proud general of the Redia Empire. Meanwhile, the king received an urgent message from his messenger, alerting him to the escalating conflict between the witches and the humans. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily upon the king's shoulders, as he realized that the fate of his kingdom hung in the balance. The human army is led by General Yamato. The messenger tries to assure us that humans will be the victor for sure. The king says to kill all the witches, even if it requires the death of the moon. He turns to the queen, Dorothea, who is a witch, and asks if she is happy with his doings. And he looks kind of insane. Well, obviously, being under a love spell, the king acts insane and constantly asks to compliment him. As the king is hugging Dorothea, she whispers in his ear that since the witches are dead, he should die too, since his purpose is complete now. To make his queen happy, the king says he loves her slavery. Dorothea seriously needs to start giving lessons on love spells. Overcome with a newfound sense of joy and excitement, the king decides to take a leap off the terrace. As he dances merrily, Dorothea, his beloved, claps her hands from behind, cheering him on. The soldier, however, remains perplexed and apprehensive, struggling to comprehend the king's sudden transformation and the events unfolding before him. The king keeps chanting that if this makes Dorothea happy, he will do anything, even if it costs him his life, and he climbs on the edge of the terrace to jump. Such a dreamy relationship. As the soldier tries to stop the king, he says that he is the great emperor, and being the king, he can do anything he wants to. The country is the greatest because of Dorothea, and everyone is blessed because of her. Dorothea's cheeks flushed with a rosy hue, but despite her bashfulness, she insisted that it was time for the king to meet his end. With a determined glint in her eyes, she watched as the king took the plunge from the terrace. The soldier, witnessing the king's descent, gasped in horror and immediately turned his attention to Dorothea, recognizing her as the source of this tragedy. Before he could utter a word, Dorothea cast her love spell, weaving its magic around the unsuspecting soldier. Under the spell's influence, the soldier's demeanor transformed. He began to speak in a language of adoration, praising Dorothea's beauty and professing his undying love for her. His words, though false, served their purpose, masking the truth behind the king's demise. Then she orders the soldier to kill himself, and he does. Dorothea turns to Shiraosagi, and he congratulates her, saying that now this world belongs to her completely. She says that this is not the kind of world Dorothea wants, to which Shiraosagi says that she can reincarnate it into whatever she wants. Now, Dorothea's only threat is the witches, since her magic doesn't work on women, so she needs to stay cautious of them. As Shiraosagi calls her Your Majesty, she corrects it and says that he should call her by her maiden name now, Lady Dorothea. Back on the moon, Adonis reaches his hand out to Doroka, saying that she should kill all the humans now. Doroka's heart sank as she witnessed Adonis's merciless slaughter of the human soldiers. She pleaded with him to stop, her voice filled with desperation. But Adonis remained deaf to her pleas. As the last soldier fell, Doroka raised her hands, ready to unleash her magic against Adonis. But he moved with lightning speed, appearing before her in an instant. His eyes held a menacing glint, and his words echoed with a chilling threat. If you dare interfere, Doroka, you will die again. The fallen soldiers' pleas for mercy hung heavy in the air, their voices laced with fear and desperation. They begged Adonis to stop, reminding him of his own mother's cries for mercy. But Adonis's heart was hardened, impervious to their pleas. But Adonis says he won't stop with an evil laugh and runs with his magic towards them. Doroka again tries to stop him, saying that his revenge will only create more and more hatred between witches and humans and won't settle any peace. Angrily, Adonis says to stop with her useless speech, as Doroka is just wasting her breath. His eyes are full of revenge for the humans he wants to have. Now, Doroka begs Adonis to stop the ruthless killing. She doesn't want to see the war, the blood, and the mass killing again. Undeterred by Doroka's pleas for mercy, Adonis continued his relentless slaughter of the human soldiers. Doroka watched in horror as the bodies of the fallen soldiers piled up around her, a testament to Adonis's ruthless power. Despite her despair and shock, Adonis remained indifferent, his eyes devoid of any emotion. With a cold, calculating gesture, Adonis seized Yamato's phone and turned his gaze towards the lifeless body. Using his dark magic, he began the gruesome process of altering his own appearance, mimicking Yamato's features. With a swift and brutal motion, Adonis tore the skin from Yamato's face and donned it as his own mask. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the National Science Bureau in the capital of the Redia Empire, a team of scientists tirelessly monitored the situation. Their eyes glued to the live feed streaming from the scene of the massacre. They watched in disbelief as Adonis transformed himself into Yamato, a chilling reminder of the dark power he wielded. Despite the efforts of numerous people, no visuals are being obtained. They wonder if the team got annihilated, which is hard for them to believe because General Yamato led the elite team to the war. Even Yamato was considered super strong. Suddenly, the powers get cut out of the headquarters, but a while later, the lights were back on. With that, the National Bureau also catches a signal from Yamato's personal device. The main power gets connected to the main screen, and they see General Yamato on the screen. It is Adonis who is imitating Yamato. With a triumphant voice, Adonis announced to the gathered Redia soldiers that they had emerged victorious in their battle against the witches on the moon. He instructed them to immediately inform His Majesty of the witches' eradication, emphasizing the grueling nature of the fight, and the sacrifices made by the soldiers who gave their lives to secure their victory. Despite being the sole survivor, Adonis, still imitating Yamato, expressed his longing for Earth and requested his immediate return. However, Theta, confined to his wheelchair and reliant on an oxygen mask, immediately recognized Adonis's deception. Clementine realizes that this was Adonis's plan from the beginning, to lure the soldiers onto the moon, even if it costs the lives of the witches. Adonis grabs Doroka's hand and says to come with him, but she slaps him, something that would turn the nerds on. Degradation. Doroka says what Chloe would think of him now after what Adonis has done, and she will never look at him with respect. During the conversation, teleportation from Earth is initiated to bring General Yamato back from the moon. Clementine, being cut in half too, bids farewell to Adonis, claiming him to be a human with limitless evil within him. With a voice trembling with righteous anger, Theta called down upon Adonis the judgment of God, declaring that his wicked deeds would not go unpunished. Meanwhile, the scientists informed Theta and his troops that the teleportation process to Earth was imminent. Theta, however, had anticipated their return and had his army poised to unleash a hail of bullets upon them the moment they materialized. Driven by his unwavering belief that the witches had been in cahoots with the aliens, Theta was determined to eliminate them once and for all. As the countdown reaches 0, figures began to shimmer into existence, and Theta's soldiers, without hesitation, opened fire.